Good day, students. You're welcome to biology lesson. In our class today, we will continue from where we stopped in our previous class. And we started considering the topic conservation of natural resources. In our last class, we looked at what conservation is, and we said conservation is the plan and judicious use of resources to ensure their continuous availability and to maintain the natural form of the environment. And then we looked at resources. We said these are things that are provided by nature for the well-being of man. And we looked at examples of resources that can be conserved. We looked at water, we looked at minerals, we looked at soil, we looked at forest, we looked at wildlife, and so on. And in our previous classes, we were able to consider how to conserve soil. We also looked at conservation of water and conservation of wildlife. In our class today, we'll be considering conservation of forest. Conservation of forest as an example of natural resource. Forests are fast dwindling due to indiscriminate felling of trees for various uses such as firewood and for furniture, bush burning, and air and soil pollution. We find out that these days forests are fast becoming extinct because of indiscriminate felling down of trees, and trees are being felled down for so many reasons. It can be as a source of fuel in form of firewood, or for timber in making furniture and in other construction. And also, forests are being cut down because of urbanization, increase in population. So there's high rate of cutting down of forests so that space can be created to build houses. Ways of conserving forests. Number one, laws. That's the number one way to conserve forests. There are established laws that regulate the felling of trees. Before any timber is felled, permission must be obtained from the Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources. So government have established laws that regulate how trees should be felled or trees should be cut down, and then for timber and for other purposes. Before anyone should fell down or cut down any tree, that individual must obtain permission from the Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources. 2. Forest guards. These are people that are employed by government and are being paid to be able to guard our forests from indiscriminate felling down of trees and bush burning. Number 3. Selective cutting of trees. Only mature trees are allowed to be felled for timber. Young ones are allowed to grow to replace the felled ones. So young trees should not be cut down, should be allowed to grow up to replace those that are mature that have been felled. Number 4. Forest reserves. Forest reserves are lands that are acquired by government in which trees are grown. And then various governments have acquired forest reserve. Nobody is allowed to cut down trees, farm and hunt in the reserve except by permission. So farming, cutting down of trees, and hunting is not allowed in such acquired areas that we call forest reserve. Number 5. Planting of trees, afforestation. Where you cut down one tree, plant 2. If trees are not planted, there will be shortage of trees in the future. So you find out that we have to encourage afforestation, that is the planting of trees. So where a tree is cut down, 2 should be planted to replace the one that has been cut down. Otherwise, in future, we'll have shortage of trees. And if that happened, we'll not have timber for furniture and for other construction activities. Number 6. Government should bring the cost of coal, cooking gas, and electricity to a level which the poor can afford. We know that in this country, most of the source of our fuel for cooking is the firewood, because of how expensive the cooking gas and the coal and the electricity is. The poor man cannot afford. But if the prices of these fuels are brought down, everyone can afford, and then the demands on trees will be less. This will prevent the excessive use of firewood, which is one of the causes of deforestation. So these are the ways through which forests can be conserved. Benefit of forest conservation. Number 1. They ensure preservation and continuous availability of timber and other economic trees. If forests are conserved, we continuously have available timber for our furniture making and other trees for economic activities. Number 2, they help to preserve the fertility of the topsoil by preventing soil erosion, because the trees are growing on the soil. They cover the soil and they prevent the soil from being eroded. That also improves soil fertility. Number 3, they preserve desert encroachment, that is desertification. They prevent an area from becoming a desert. Then number 4, they preserve the natural habitats of animals, hence increase in animal population. Because the forests are conserved, the animal will live in their natural habitat, and if that happens, their population will thrive. Number 5, forests act as windbreaks to strong winds, hence prevents strong winds from destroying man's property. Because of the way the roots of the trees in the forest holds the soil in place, keep the soil in place, and also they break the speed of wind. Because of that, it reduces destruction of man's property. Conservation of minerals. Conservation of minerals. We look at minerals as the next resource to be conserved. Minerals are conserved through regulating the quantity to be mined per day or for a specific duration. So for us to conserve minerals, we have to be able to regulate the way these minerals are being mined, either per day or for a specific duration of time. E.g., the number of barrels of crude oil pumped daily is limited. So every day in Nigeria, there's a specific number of barrels of crude oil that is supposed to be pumped daily. If that is not checked, these minerals will become extinct. They will get finished, and then in future, they will not be there for us to use. And also, only federal government agencies are authorized to mine minerals in Nigeria. Few individuals or private companies may be allowed to mine minerals. So we have to regulate and put in place who has the license or authority to mine what mineral at what time. Benefit of mineral conservation. Benefit of mineral conservation. They provide continuous source of energy. For e.g., coal is used for cooking and driving of locomotives, such as trains, while petrol is used for driving motor vehicles. So find out that these minerals are our sources of energy, especially for driving and for heating. And then number 2, they provide raw materials for industry. For example, iron ore and coal are used in iron industries. Number 3, it ensures continuous availability of common salt, sodium chloride, used for food and industry, etc. These are the benefits of conservation of minerals. Problems and difficulties of natural resource conservation. In general, there are problems that conservation of mineral resources is made difficult because of them. Number 1, limited sources of energy. Limited sources of energy. You find out that when we're talking about issue of things like coal, cooking gas, and the rest, because we don't have sufficient or we don't have varying sources of energy, we tend to be dependent on one source, that's the firewood. Even when those other minerals are available, they are expensive, as we earlier explained. Number 2, bush burning. Bush burning. Farmers, because of laziness, most at times set the bushes on fire when they are clearing their farms for a farming season. This one too is a problem that is making conservation of resources, especially the soil, difficult. Number 3, limited land area for development. Because of the growing population, there's need for building of houses, and because of that, most often lands are cleared, trees are cut down to create space to build houses to accommodate the growing population. Number 4, overfishing. Overfishing. When fishermen kept fishing in a particular water body over a long period of time, you find out that it becomes so difficult for the organisms to be conserved. Number 5, overhunting of animals. Animals are being hunted, and because of that, the animals might go into extinction. Number 6, overgrazing. When animals are being fed on a particular portion of land, they eat up the grass with the undergrowth, and they also trampled the soil and making the soil to be strong, and that makes soil conservation difficult and also may affect the fertility of the soil. Number 7, purging. Purging. This is the practice of illegally killing of animals for commercial purpose. For example, elephants are illegally killed in thousands for their tusks, ivory. So, purging is a situation whereby animals are illegally killed in large quantity for commercial purpose. Like we gave example here now, elephants are usually killed illegally because of their tusks that is used. The effect of man's excessive use of natural resources. The effect of man's excessive use of natural resources. When man uses resources excessively, what will be the effect in the future? Number 1, excessive use of natural resources will lead to poverty in future. Number 2, overuse of the forest leads to shortage of trees. And we know that trees, we said, are supposed to be raw material in form of timber for making of furniture, and also the excessive use of forests will deprive wildlife of their natural habitat and their food. So if these forests are being cut down, we find out that the habitat of wildlife is destroyed and their food too is destroyed. Number 4, pollution of the land, air and water results in decrease of plants and animals population. The land becomes polluted, and that will affect the population of both plants and animals. Number 5, tourism resulting from wildlife will collapse. This will lead to great loss of revenue both in local and foreign currency. Remember we said one of the benefits of conserving wildlife and forests is for tourist purpose, and if that happened, this tourism will collapse, and then it is going to affect the income of revenue for the government. Ways of ensuring conservation. Ways of ensuring conservation. How do we ensure that conservation is carried out? Number 1, agencies. Agencies. Government establish different agencies at different level of government, the federal, state, and local government. Different agencies to conserve natural resources have been established by various governments. In Nigeria, we have the following agencies. Number 1, Nigerian Conservation Foundation. This is one of the agencies that have been established by government to ensure conservation. Number 2, that's B, Forestry and Fisheries Division of the Federal and State Ministries of Agriculture. C, Game Reserve Authorities, e.g. Yankari Game Reserve in Bauchi State, Bogu Game Reserve in Kwara State, and Okomu Sanctuary in Edo State. D, Energy Commission. Energy Commission to regulate the use of sources of energy. Number E, Zoological Gardens, e.g. Zoological Gardens of the University of Ibadan and Obafemi Awolowo Ife. These are agencies, example of agencies that have been set aside by government to ensure conservation in Nigeria. 2, conservation education. Conservation education, just like the way we are doing now. We are educating ourselves, enlightening ourselves of the needs and the benefit of conservation. So the populace should be educated or enlightened on the ways and the benefit of conserving our natural resources. Number 3, conservation laws. Conservation laws. Laws are to be set by the government in order to be able to ensure conservation. Like remember we said when we're talking about conserving forests, we say when one tree is fell down, 2 should be planted to replace the one that has been cut down. These are examples of conservation law. And with this, we have come to the end of our class on this topic, conservation of natural resources. When we meet next, we will continue with the next topic. Have a nice day. God bless you.